Hello there and welcome to my channel, The Oil Painting Journey, where I share oil painting tips, information and inspiration to new oil painters. So in this video, I'm going to share my top tips if you would like to create a still life with more effect and interest. If we haven't met, hello, my name is Marie Blom and I'm a professional fine artist and digital course creator based in beautiful Norway. So, one of my favorite topics to paint and something that I have painted for many years, it is still lifes. Now, still life compositions can be really simple yet striking if you know how to combine the right type of textures and objects. So in this video, I'm going to share my top tips that I like to follow whenever I'm creating or arranging a still life setup for my own paintings. And hopefully you're going to find this really helpful and inspiring, and this is going to help you create still lifes with more interest and effect as well. So tip number one, and this is my absolute favorite tip to give, it is to vary the textures in your still life. So if you have a bunch of different objects that you're going to paint, I really recommend that you have a little bit of variety in the different surface textures of those different objects. This is going to create a lot more interest and variety in your still lifes. So for example, I like to combine, for example, glass with something shiny like gold and something matte like wood or fabric, because what all of these textures do when they're combined in a still life is that they play off each other and they enhance each other. So if you have something shiny, that is going to look even more shiny if you place it next to something matte and something drier and something more muted, right? So it's really important to get that interest up in your still life painting, that you have contrasts. And one way that you can do this, create contrast, is through textures. So combining different textures is going to create contrast and is going to create interest and effect in your paintings. So tip number two, it is to have objects of different sizes. So when you're arranging a still life, if you have, let's say 3 different objects and they all have more or less the same size and shape, that is going to make the still life very repetitive, and it's going to make the still life very static and very boring compared to if you have objects of different sizes and shapes. When you have objects of different sizes and shapes, they will contrast against each other and enhance each other, and they will keep the interest in the image a lot longer than if your eye is only looking at the same size and shape over and over again. Tip number three, it is to have something alive in your still life. So something alive meaning something that either is alive or something that has been alive. So this can be flowers, fruits, vegetables, it can be a seashell, it can be straws, just something that has a little bit of extra life to it. Now, this is because when you bring this into a still life, you're going to get completely different energy in the still life, and you're going to get a lot more interest and effects. If you only have static, quote unquote, dead objects in your still life, like cups or bowls or bottles, this can seem a little bit dense and it can bring across a feel of it being a little bit less energetic and a bit less lifeless. So just by introducing something, and it can just be one thing, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be like, for example, you have a composition where you have a bowl, and then in addition to that bowl, or in that bowl, you add some eggs, or you add, some flowers or some fruit. Then it's going to bring a lot more life and vibrancy to your still life right away. My final tip to make a much more interesting and effectful still life, it is to just work with one light source. If you just have one light source, this will create a really cool and dramatic light effect in your paintings compared to if you have a bunch of different lights coming in all directions. When you're just working with one light source, it's also a lot easier to create strong shadow shapes and light shapes in your setup. This is going to help you create really cool light effects, but it's also going to make it easier for you to actually paint what you see in nature, because it's going to be easier to see how the form actually moves from light to shadow. So just working with one light source, I really recommend it. If you have the possibility to work with natural light and have that be your one light source, I think this is ideal, because when you do, then you have a much softer light and you have a light that actually doesn't mess too much with the colors and values of what you're seeing. So that was my final tip, working with one light source. Now, I really hope that you enjoyed these tips and that you would try it the next time you arrange a still life for yourself. So tip number one, it is to vary the textures of what you're painting. Tip number two is to vary the size and shape of what you're painting. Tip number three is to introduce something alive in your painting. And tip number four, it is to work with only one light source. Now, I really hope that you found these tips helpful. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, you can always reach me in the comments below this video. And if you would like to get more tips and advice and inspiration about oil paint, then I also invite you to subscribe to my channel, The Oil Painting Journey, and also hit the small bell icon so you always know when I post a new video. So I just want to wish you lots and lots of inspiration and happy painting. Bye!